say hi so I know who's here. If I don't know you, my name is Stephanie Rothenberg, and I'm a broker at the William Ravis NYC office. I have been in New York City since 2008. I was raised in Nashville, Tennessee, and I moved up to go to school at NYU. And actually, for those of you who don't know kind of why this is themed Backstage with Stephanie, prior to joining Ravis, I was on Broadway for many years. And so I thought it'd be fun. People were asking me when I sent out this email link, are you going to be singing? And I said, no, but who knows? But tonight we're just going to really talk about top line, what it takes to buy in New York City, who's helping you, what's the mystique, all this mystery of these co-ops and co-op boards and all sorts of things. So we're going to navigate through all that. And then we'll do questions at the end. And I think we should probably go ahead and get started, and if people pop on, I'll try to letting them in as I can remember to. So, great. Oh yeah, if you might go ahead and mute everybody. If you could just mute on your ends, that would be, thank you. Oh, everybody's so good. I remember at the beginning of, we were first doing these Zoom meetings, everybody was like, where's the button? But now we've all got a hang of it. Okay, so I'm pulling, okay, let them in. Great. Here we are. Okay, great. So a question I've been getting a lot recently from people in the city and my friends in Nashville or Denver or wherever, is basically who's going to want to come back to New York City? Who's going to want to ride the subways again? Who will people feel nervous about buying real estate in the city? What's going to happen? And I kind of, maybe I'm, optimistic, but I mean, the numbers don't lie. After 9/11, after coming back, who's going to want to live in New York? New Yorkers, people who love the city. And that's many, many people. People who have been priced out of the city might be able to come back in after this. So I really think New York City is a dream for so many people. It was for me, and it continues to be. And especially in a time like this, I think it shows its resiliency, and I just don't have any doubt in my mind that it's going to come back. And when we take off the finger from the pause button, it's everybody's saying, all the analysts are saying, it's going to be a great time to get what we call sweetheart deals, right? So what does that mean? We don't know what it's going to look like months after, but we do know we were in a buyer's market before. There's no reason why when we come off pause, we won't still be in a buyer's market. So this is going to be a great time to buy, but let's get you informed and educated, and then I can answer any questions that you may have that I don't get to, because, buying a home, anywhere, an apartment in New York City, anywhere, is one of the biggest decisions of your life. It's financially huge, it's emotionally huge, and then New York City takes it to like the next level, right? Because it's so expensive. The barrier to entry is just so high, right? So, and on top of that, it's confusing and it's full of mystery. What's a co-op board? What's a co-op in general versus a condo? Why does every co-op have different rules than other co-op boards? What are those rules? Do I even qualify? Can't I even look in this building? It's overwhelming. I mean, just saying it seems crazy. It's overwhelming. And you need a team to help you navigate all this. And that's what I'm here for. And that's what these two other people I'm going to tell you about. It's a team of 3 people. So it's your mortgage banker, it's me, and then in the end, it's your attorney. So we're going to go through what these people do for you and how the process works, kind of quick top line of it all. So with your mortgage banker, that's the first step, really. You're going to have a conversation with them, right? And I can connect you to somebody if you don't know a mortgage banker yet. So your first conversation is really going to be to discuss with your banker what you qualify for. So it's going to be, what is the ceiling? What's the tippy top? Can I afford a $1 million apartment? What's my tippy top? Obviously, I am not going to take that number and, okay, we have more people joining. I'm not going to take that number and say, oh, great. Okay, now we're going to look at $1 million apartments for you immediately, because that doesn't take into account your vacations you want to take, your discretionary spending, your manicures every week that I dearly miss. So we'll come up with a number. What do you want your monthly costs to be? And really, you can ask your banker, and you should. It would behoove you to kind of ask them to make a spreadsheet. What's it like? If you're someone who is renting or has historically rented in New York City, as I have, what is the difference going to be with my mortgage costs plus my maintenance or common charges? What does that turn out to be? And so what I think you might be surprised to find, with down payment as a separate issue, your monthly costs might you might be pleasantly surprised to find that your monthly costs turn out to be almost the same as your rental costs. But instead of throwing, the money out the window, I used to say lighting money on fire when I was renting, you're gaining equity. And so right now, more folks joining. So right now, I think a lot of people are curious because you keep hearing on the news kind of mortgage rates are historically low. They're so low. But what does that mean in context of anything, right? Like what are they now, and where were they before? So just to give you a perspective on this, right now, mortgage rates are at 3 to 4%. There was some major volatility in March and early April, and now it's kind of steadied out at 3 to 4%. For an example, in 1980, 1981, the mortgage interest rate was 18 to 19%. So when they say historically low, that's what they mean. It's never been cheaper to lend money at this point. It's important to note, I think, during the pandemic that we're in right now, that banks are really adapting their credit policy to the environment, to the unemployment rate being so high. So what mortgage bankers are saying right now, if you were to go speak to one today, it would be that they would request a bigger down payment, and they're just being more scrupulous with their underwriting. So, but that would be if you were to talk to them today, not a few months from now. Who knows where that's going to be? So you're going to have that conversation, and then you come over to me with, your pre-approval letter, which is super, super important in Manhattan. Before you can write an offer anywhere, you need a pre-approval letter. Otherwise, it's not taken seriously at all. So we'll sit down together and we'll discuss kind of your monthly costs. What does your number want to be per month, right? So that's going to help us look at, with your financial picture, we call that your financial passport. So where can you go? You have your little pre-approval, your passport to where? What buildings? What locations? What can I do with this money, and how can I invest it properly? So at that point, we'll sit down, and it's my job to make sure that I take care of you, that I shepherd you through this whole process. The first of which is going to be the big old condo co-op discussion. So this is the biggest question that I think New York City brokers get from first-time buyers. What is a condo in the first place, and what is a co-op, and what is the whole secretive board rejection, board approval land over here? What's in a board package? So basically, the biggest difference by definition of a condo versus a co-op is that you own shares in a corporation. The building is the corporation, and you own shares. So the bigger your apartment, the more shares in the corporation that you have. So you technically do not own your space. You don't own this technical space, which is kind of nuts to think about, I guess. In a condo, you own real property, you have a title, it's like owning a house. That's it. So co-ops make up 85% of the New York City market, and condos 15%. Historically, that number until the late 80s was 100% co-op. It was a town of co-ops. Now you're thinking, okay, why co-ops? Why would I buy in a co-op? Because the primary reason is that they are 25 to 30% less expensive than condos are. So imagine, same apartment, this being a condo or a co-op, it would be 30% less expensive. So no wonder you're going to jump through all these hoops, right? We're going to talk about those hoops. because you can really get a deal. So the huge difference between a condo and a co-op is gonna be who can buy them. I like the saying, who buys in a co-op? Somebody who wants to buy it, live in it, and then sell it. Who buys in a condo? Anyone. It can be a parent buying for a child. It can be an LLC. It can be an investor from another country. Anybody. You can rent out your condos. Think about it like a house. You can rent it out. You can do what you want. With a co-op, there's going to be a lot more restrictions on what you can do, who can live in them, and what you can use that space for. So, and also the purchase process is also slightly different. Both have board packages that include very similar financial information. Some are more thorough than others. With co-ops, you need professional letters of recommendation, or personal letters of recommendation, all your finances. It's, very invasive financially and otherwise. And the co-op can reject you and give you no reason. They can tell you how much is a minimum amount down for an apartment. Most co-ops are 25% down payment. That can go up as high as 100%. Some, Park Avenue buildings don't allow any sort of financing whatsoever. They also can say, after this $1 million apartment, you need to have 5 times the purchase price in your bank account. So it is restrictive, but there's a reason for that. And we'll get to that later, because I'm sure you're thinking, why would anybody buy in a co-op if not for that price? So all of that to say why you need to work with a broker, why you need somebody who understands the market. What's the difference? What could you qualify for, right? So that's where I come in. We're going to sit down together. We're going to talk through all of this. If you don't have, these crazy cash reserves in the bank that these co-ops are going to require, I'm not going to show you those apartments. And it saves you a lot of heartache falling in love with something that they would reject you. And it also allows me to help you narrow down this massive amount of supply on a general. It's not a massive amount of supply right now, but usually in April, it's a massive amount of supply. How do you narrow all of this down? So I find it to be a really huge honor to be able to help people navigate all of this, help them find their homes. It's going to be where they're going to live. So you've got to like your broker, trust them. Our jobs are to be honest and transparent and educated, so we can educate you and you can make a sound financial and personal choice when you find your dream apartment. So after we get your sense of pre-approval, we're going to look at all of that. We're going to show you the co-ops you can pass the board in. We'll show you condos as a different option, right? Or only condos if that's your deal. And then the fun side of it, I like to do with my clients is your wish list, your want list, and your must-have list. So if you're buying with, say, your partner, your husband, whoever's helping you make the decision and all of this, it's really fun to do your lists separately and then maybe grab a glass of wine together and show each other your lists, right? So maybe your wishes are wraparound terrace and 12-foot ceilings, right? Your want list is going to get a little bit more concrete, right? So it's going to be, you want to have a dishwasher, you want to have a washer dryer in unit. And then your must-have lists are going to be deal breakers. So many times for clients, that's elevator and building, doorman, things like that. And so then we're going to work together. You and your partner can work together. We can all 3 work together to compromise those lists, basically. And I like to say, and Kathy tells me that, the people who have the $1 billion apartments, right? No, not the $1 billion, the $50 million apartments, these billionaires, no one in New York City gets exactly every single thing that they want, because what does Kathy like to say? It's special. We pride ourselves on being very special in New York. So you're not going to get everything you want, but it's my job to help synthesize those lists for you and to give you a realistic expectation of boards and what you can afford and what you can actually pass. So at that point, we find your dream apartment, right? That's it. You love it. It's a ton of information that I've said so far. We're almost there. We have your third member of your team, our team, to get to. In New York State, we close with attorneys by law. I basically do my job to find you a great apartment, and as soon as we find it, my job goes on pause slightly. And the attorney is going to begin their work. So for my friends on the call in Nashville and other states, you know, they're familiar with home inspections. Basically in New York City, it's going to be the attorney who does financial due diligence, does the financial inspection on the building. They're going to actually literally go to the management company and read the financial documents, read the board minutes. They're looking for things like how is the building's reserves? Is it a strong building? Are there any assessments maybe that are going to come up? So assessments are on top of your common charges or your monthly maintenance. You know, do they need repointing in the building? Are we going to redo the hallways and the carpeting in the hallways? And then you get a little bump charge put on your, you know, monthly costs. Is there an assessment they think coming up from the board minutes? God forbid, has there been a problem with rats or cockroaches, any issues in the building? And then hopefully all that comes back and the attorney says, yes, all good to go. Usually that process is about, I almost spilled my wine, 3 to 4 days. And they come back and then they say, all good to go. You sign the contract, you put 10% in escrow with the attorneys, and then you think it's done, right? You think, okay, so now I have my apartment. The fun part begins now. The board package. So now we're going to take all your financials from, you know, your mortgage banker. We're going to work together. We get all that information. We're going to ask you, I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. They're going to ask you a lot of questions that people said never to reveal in public. Don't talk about, your parents said, don't talk about this stuff, your finances. Well, all your neighbors are going to know about it now, but it's to protect your investment. So basically they're going to say, yes, you're approved, come for a meeting. You sit down with the members of the board and hopefully all goes well and you're approved. They tell you the next day and there you go, keys to your apartment, you're in. So that's kind of the process. I told you I would get to why does anybody buy in a co-op, right? Because I've told you all of this. You're like, I don't know if it's 25% is worth it. Well, it is. But more so than that, I keep saying it's to protect you, to protect the shareholders in the corporation. Just as an example, and I think it really illustrates this point, in 2008, when there was the mortgage crisis, New York City saw so few foreclosures because the co-op boards did what the banks in the United States were not doing. They were doing more financial due diligence than the banks who lent them money. So all of that to say, all that wrapped in there, it's to protect your financial investment. And also on top of it, it's 25 to 30% cheaper than a condo. So let's find your apartment. Let's get that deal. There's going to be deals to be had after this, after we hit, you know, the pause button off. We're all so looking forward to that. Manhattan's always going to be Manhattan. And I'm excited to help you find your apartment. It's the American dream, home ownership. So let's do it.